Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Malaysia in Focus, the place where we peel back the layers on the social, economic, and cultural stories shaping our country. Because today we're finding out why being good with money in Malaysia has almost nothing to do with how smart you are and everything to do with how you behave.
That is quite the opener. You're basically saying our degrees and math skills don't matter.
I am saying they matter less than we think. Today we're doing a deep dive into the global bestseller, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. But, as always, we're not just doing a book report. We're decoding this specifically through a Malaysian lens.
Right.
We've got the Malay translation, Sani Menjanakan Wang. We've got local academic papers on financial behavior in B40 households, and some very real, very raw discussions from the Malaysian PF Reddit community.
It's a really strong mix of sources, and looking at the outline, the mission here is, well, it's different from the usual finance talk. We're not looking for the next hot stock tip or debating which crypto is going to the moon.
No, not at all.
We're trying to understand the emotions behind our financial decisions, from the pressure of the sandwich generation to why we have this deep, almost cultural love for things like ASB and EPF.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because Housel's core thesis, and this is what we're going to test against our local reality, is that doing well with money is a soft skill. It's not physics. It's psychology.
So you can be a genius engineer at Petronas and go broke.
And you can be a quiet clerk in a government office and retire wealthy. It happens.
And that concept, that soft skill idea, is I think where we should start, because we found a study from the Britannica Journal of Social Sciences and Humanities that looked specifically at low-income households, the B40 group in Malaysia.
Yep.
And the findings were actually quite surprising. They were looking for what drives financial well-being.
Usually we assume the answer is just more income or maybe better education, right?
Yeah.
If you know how math works, you should be good with money.
You'd think so. But the study highlighted something called locus of control.
Locus of control. Okay, that sounds like something from a physics textbook. Let's unpack that. What does it actually mean for someone trying to budget for groceries at Lotus's?
Think of it as your internal steering wheel. It's the belief that you are in the driver's seat of your own life. The researchers found that financial knowledge, just knowing definitions like what inflation is or how to calculate interest, wasn't the main predictor of doing well.
Wait, so I can memorize the definition of compound interest? I can know exactly how the OPR affects my loan, but that doesn't mean I'm actually saving money.
Precisely. The knowledge is just a tool in the trunk. The locus of control is whether you actually use it. The study showed that financial knowledge only translates to well-being when it's mediated by financial behavior, and that behavior comes from believing your actions matter.
So if I have a low locus of control, I might say, well, the economy is bad, the ringgit is weak, so what's the point in me saving 50 ringgit this month? It won't make a difference.
That's it. That is an external locus of control. You feel like life is happening to you. But someone with an internal locus of control says, the economy is bad, so I must save this 50 ringgit because it's the one thing I can control.
Ah, okay.
It's the difference between knowing how a car engine works, that's the knowledge, and actually being a safe, defensive driver. That's the behavior.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
You can be a mechanic, you know the engine inside out, but you drive like a maniac. Meanwhile, someone who knows nothing about engines drives safely and gets to the destination.
And in the Malaysian context, this is huge. We spend so much government money on financial literacy programs that teach terms and math, but the sources are suggesting we need to teach agency. We need to teach people that their small habits move the needle, even when the macroeconomy feels overwhelming.
If realizing that your habits matter more than your IQ is giving you a clearer picture of your finances, hit like and subscribe so you'll always stay ahead on Malaysia's biggest issues.
Now, this focus on behavior leads us directly to one of Housel's most famous rules, which I think is probably the most misunderstood one. He says, do not aim to be coldly rational. Aim to be pretty reasonable.
Reasonable. It sounds so. Well, average. We're usually told to be optimized, right? To be perfectly rational.
But are you a spreadsheet?
I mean, some days I wish I was, but no.
And that's the point. Let's look at the behavioral architecture of wealth in Malaysia, a paper we pulled. It talks about the sleep at night factor. Mathematically, if you're young, say 25 years old, a rational spreadsheet would tell you, put every single ringgit into a high volatility global stock index. Don't keep cash.
Right. Cash loses value to inflation. That's the rational advice. Maximize returns.
But what happens when a pandemic hits? Or a war starts, and that global index drops 40% in 3 weeks?
If I'm just a normal person, I panic. I assume it's going to zero. I sell everything to save what's left.
And that is where rational fails, because you just locked in a loss. Being reasonable admits that you are a human being who feels fear. And this explains the massive popularity of things like Amana Sam Bumiputra, ASB, and the Employees Provident Fund, RKWSP.
Funny you mention ASB. I have friends who complain about the returns. They say, oh, it's only 5% or 4 something. I could get 100% in crypto.
Of course.
But they still keep money in ASB.
Because ASB is what the sources call a psychological floor. It's fixed price. The unit price doesn't bounce around on your screen every day. It doesn't turn red.
It's boring, but in a good way.
It provides a safety net that allows you to function without anxiety. Even if, say, TNG Go Plus or GX Bank or ASB have lower returns than the optimal investment, the peace of mind, the liquidity, and the safety that makes sticking to the plan easier.
So the cost of those lower returns, that difference between the 5% you get and the 10% you might have gotten, is actually a fee. It's the price of admission for sleeping well at night.
And for staying in the game. If your portfolio is so volatile that you can't sleep, you will eventually quit. You'll cash out at the worst possible time. Housel argues that reasonable investors who stick around for 20 years will beat rational investors who get scared and quit after 5.
That makes so much sense. We actually saw this in the Reddit threads we looked at. Young people asking, is ASB enough? And the older users usually say, max it out first. It's that foundation.
Exactly. You build the house on concrete, not on a trampoline.
But building that foundation brings up another huge psychological hurdle, specifically in our culture, the concept of enough.
Oh, this is a big one. Housel tells the story of Bernie Madoff in the book. And obviously Madoff was a criminal. But the psychological point was fascinating. He was already legitimately rich. He was making millions. He had status.
He had everything.
But he ruined it all because he didn't have a stop button. He didn't know what enough was.
It's the trap of the moving goalpost.
Yes. But here's where we have to pivot to the Malaysian context. Because Housel writes from a very American, very individualistic perspective.
Right. In the U.S., enough usually means, do I have enough to buy my own island? Or do I have enough to quit my job and play golf? It's all about me.
Exactly. But our sources highlight the clash between that Western individualism and a Malaysian collectivism. Here we deal with the sandwich generation.
The sandwich generation. That pressure where you're financially supporting your aging parents, but also trying to raise your own kids, you're squashed right in the middle.
So defining enough in Malaysia isn't just about your personal luxury. It involves filial piety. The academic papers we looked at highlight that for many Malaysians, risk isn't just seeing a line on a chart go down.
No.
Risk is the fear of being unable to fulfill your duties to the family.
That is heavy. It changes the equation completely. If I lose my money in a bad stock trade, I'm not just hurting my retirement. I might be hurting my dad's medical care.
Correct. So when we talk about financial psychology here, we can't just say, save more for yourself. We have to acknowledge that money in Malaysia is often a tool for social responsibility. That creates a very different kind of anxiety. It's not greed, it's a fear of letting people down.
Which really reinforces why that psychological floor, that boring ASB/EPF money, is so critical. You need to feel safe not just for you, but for the whole clan.
Yes. And understanding that distinction helps us clarify the difference between being rich and being wealthy.
Okay, let's separate these two, because in common conversation, we use them interchangeably. Oh, he drives a Velfire, he's so rich. She has a bungalow, she's wealthy. Same thing, right?
Housel argues they are opposites. And this is a key takeaway. Rich is visible. It's current income. It's the modified car, the Starbucks every day, the designer handbag. It's money that has been spent.
So when I see a 500,000 ringgit car, all I know is that the person has 500,000 ringgit less than they did before, and they have that much in debt.
Exactly. You see the debt or the depreciation. You don't see the bank account. Wealth, on the other hand, is hidden. Wealth is income that was not spent. It's the money in the ASB account, the unexercised options, the compounding interest. Wealth is the option to buy something later.
We have a perfect example of this from our sources. There was a thread on the Our Malaysian PF subreddit that really blew up recently. It was about a user named Adapsasi.
Ah, yes, the 18-year-old saver. This story is a perfect case study for the psychology of money.
So for the listeners who missed it, this girl's 18. She has managed to save 34,000 ringgit, which, let's be honest, is incredible discipline for that age. Most 18-year-olds have 34 ringgit.
It's true, wealth, in Housel's definition, it was hidden, nobody saw it, but then she posted because she was in trouble.
Right. She described herself as a people pleaser, a family friend, the classic auntie figure. found out she had savings, and convinced her to put that money into unit trusts.
And we need to be specific about why the Reddit community was so upset about this. It wasn't just that unit trusts are bad, it's that many unit trusts in Malaysia come with high upfront sales charges, sometimes 3 to 5%, and high annual management fees.
So instantly, the moment she signed the paper, she lost 5% of her money to the agent's commission.
Basically. And now the market is down, she is losing money, and she is terrified to withdraw it. Not because of the math, she knows she's losing money, but because she doesn't want to offend the auntie. She doesn't want to be rude.
This is such a classic Malaysian conflict. The social pressure completely overrode the financial logic. Her wealth, the RM34K, gave her freedom. But the psychological need to be nice jeopardized that wealth.
This is exactly what Housel means when he talks about agency. The Reddit community rallied around her, and the advice wasn't technical. They weren't analyzing the PE ratio of the fund. The advice was behavioral. Learn to say no. Stop pleasing people.
The boredom of ASB is better than the excitement of a sales pitch.
That was the core message. It really shows that the rich mindset, trying to do something sophisticated, or buying a product sold by a smooth talker, was hurting her. The wealthy mindset is boring. It's sitting on that cash in a safe place, earning 5%, and sleeping well.
It's funny you say boring, because that seems to be the secret sauce nobody wants to taste. Housel talks about the seduction of pessimism and complexity. We are drawn to complex narratives. We think if it's complicated, it must be better.
But real wealth building is incredibly dull. It's like watching paint dry.
Which brings us to the magic of compounding. Housel brings up Warren Buffett. We all know he's rich, but Housel points out that almost all of Buffett's wealth came after he qualified for Social Security.
Yes. Buffett is a great investor, sure. But his secret weapon wasn't his stock picking. It was time. He started when he was a child. He's been compounding for 3/4 of a century. If he had started investing at 30 and quit at 60, nobody would have ever heard of him.
We have something in Malaysia that replicates this mechanism, don't we?
We do. The EPF. It is essentially a forced behavioral discipline machine.
I like that. A machine for discipline.
Think about it. Humans are naturally bad at patience. We want the money now. We want the new phone now. EPF takes the money before you even see it in your bank account. It automates the patience. It ensures you stay in the market for decades.
So it guarantees you stay in the game.
Exactly. Housel talks about tails you win, the idea that you only need to stay in the game long enough to catch the long-term trend. EPF guarantees it. It saves us from ourselves.
That's a good way to put it. And it's interesting seeing the new wave of Malaysian finfluencers, content creators, picking up on this. A few years ago, the internet was just full of get rich quick.
Oh yeah, Forex trading masterclass, crypto moonshots.
When we saw where that led, the sources mentioned the quantum metal fiasco.
For those who don't know, that was the gold trading scheme, right? And it sounded very sophisticated. Gold-backed, leverage, high returns. It was incredibly complex. And Housel warns us, complexity is often a mask for risk.
Thousands of Malaysians got stuck in that because it promised a shortcut.
But now, look at the creators who are lasting. People like Soraya from Ringgit O Ringgit, or channels like Mr. Money TV or Financial Phases.
They seem to be pivoting back to basics.
They are. They are translating these boring concepts, budgeting, consistent investing into broad funds, using EPF into cool, relatable content. They're making boring acceptable again.
It feels like a return to sanity. We have high financial inclusion in Malaysia. Lots of people have bank accounts, but low literacy on how to behave with them.
We have the tools, but we don't know how to build the house. Or rather, we keep trying to build a skyscraper on a swamp without a foundation. Housel's book and the local wisdom we've looked at is all about pouring that concrete foundation first.
So if we look at the big picture here, what is the takeaway for the listener who is maybe sitting in traffic on the federal highway right now worrying about their bank balance?
I think the biggest takeaway is to stop trying to be a genius. You don't need to predict the next Tesla. You don't need to time the KLCI perfectly. You just need to behave correctly.
Behave correctly. What does that look like practically?
Spend less than you earn. It sounds banal, but it's the only physics that matter. Save the difference. And most importantly, wait. The waiting is the hardest part psychologically.
And define enough.
Yes. Define what game you are playing. Are you playing the keep up with the Joneses game? Or are you playing the freedom game? Housel says money's greatest intrinsic value is its ability to give you control over your time.
That's a powerful reframing. We usually think money buys stuff, but money buys time.
It buys autonomy. The ability to say, I'm not coming into work today because I'm sick, or I can afford to quit this toxic job and take 3 months to find a better one, that is wealth.
And that connects back to our 18-year-old Reddit user. Her RM34K wasn't just money. It was the ability to say no.
Precisely. And by listening to the friend, she was handing over control of that freedom to someone else. She gave away her agency.
Wow, it really all comes full circle. It's not about the numbers on the screen. It's about who holds the remote control to your life.
That's it.
Thanks for watching. Join thousands of Malaysians who want clarity, not confusion. Tap like, hit subscribe, and let's keep making sense of this together.
It's about moving from looking rich to being wealthy to gain control over your time.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a thought. We talked about saving for a car or a house or a holiday. We know how to do that. But are you brave enough to save for nothing? Just saving to buy yourself the freedom to say no to a bad boss or a bad situation in the future. That is the true psychology of money. Think about it. We'll see you next time.